Well, that was our first discussion, and on to the second discussion now. The Maharaja sale is taking off. Today, the government has received expression for interest for Air India. Call it a homecoming for Tatas, the original owners of Air India. They have submitted an expression of interest. In fact, it's a story you had heard first right here on ET Now. We were the first ones to ever tell you Tatas were looking at Air India, but of course, we've seen the entire process fail at least twice. I'm going to be discussing the future of the Maharaja with my next two guests. So joining us right here on India Development Debate, Mohit Saraf, Senior Legal Advisor, and Ajay, the founder of Live From a Lounge. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us. This is Nayantara Rai. Mohit, I'm going to come to you first. The secretary for the DIPAM has in fact tweeted to the effect of saying there are multiple expressions of interest that have been submitted for Air India. Yes, it's very important, but before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm hoping you will also put in perspective how important this is. I was on the website, and the expression of interest doesn't seem to entail any financial bid, any technical bid. My understanding seems to be that you're just saying, I am interested, and now the government will decide to do due diligence. Is that what it is?
That is correct. I think this is just a first step. It is just like putting your foot in the door, and then the government will look at all these things and finally come up by 5th of January. The people who have submitted the bid, whether they qualify for the next stage, so they'll do due diligence and things like that. It's just the first stage, but it is very important because I think this is a transaction which has been on hold for a long time, and I personally work very closely with DIPAM on other transactions, not on Air India, but on other transactions. And therefore, the entire DIPAM is very keen to get this thing started. And it will send a very strong signal that a company which is very dear to the government and dear to the government thinking is being sold out, and with 100% management control. So it will send a very, very strong signal, and also it will help government to hold its, I would say, finance well. So it's a very, very positive signal, and there are a lot of companies on the block, and you can see the government is selling equity on the FPO market regularly, also doing strategic sale. So this is a pretty interesting and important deal, and I'm quite sure that the government is excited because a lot of people have suggested and they put in the bid, and government has also been very flexible in moving around the rules of the game so that they get more and more participation. But it's a difficult time for airline. But having said that, everybody says that 2024 India will be very good. It will be the third largest aviation market. So if you buy something in 2021, 1 or 2 years, you need to fix the company, and it will require a lot of time. So you will be up there in 2024 when the market boom starts. So I think it's a pretty good time to buy, good time to manage and keep things in check so that you can actually participate in the upside when the boom happens post 2024. That's what I was reading.
Okay. I'm going to now go across to Ajay. Ajay, what we do know is that the Tatas have submitted an expression for interest, and on Twitter, Interrupts has said it's going to submit an expression of interest. Now, Interrupts is a SPAC, and in fact, in the past, it has tried to buy AirAsia. It didn't work out, but it did try to buy AirAsia. So it has interest clearly in the aviation sector at large. The government, of course, is being very ambitious at a time, pandemic, bubble arrangements on, travel not back full. It's trying to sell the Maharaja. On to step 2 of the transaction. This time round, with the way it has been sweetened and all of that, do you think it'll go through? We have received expression of interest before. The point is, it never made it the next round.
Hi, Nayantara. Thanks for having me over again. I think you know me. I'm pretty circumspect of anything that concerns Air India, and I have my reasons for that. First things first, this is just the expression of interest, and like the both of you, Mohit and yourself, conferred earlier, right now, all it takes is to raise your hand and say, I'm interested. Now, the next set of actions from the government will actually be the most interesting ones to see about who do they pick to take into the second stage. Because once you're going to pick somebody to allow them to do a due diligence on the company, you're basically opening up the books of Air India to these people, and they may or may not take the airline or make a financial offer later or what have you, but they have access to the precious, very precious data of Air India. It's got route information, it's got profitability information, what routes make money, and so on and so forth. And back in the day, we've seen other transactions around the globe where people just take the data and leave. So let's hope that we do have a winner. But again, we're not clear about how the Tatas have structured their bid at this point of time. So they obviously need other parties on board. I'm guessing that's the biggest hope I have at this point of time. But the people who will actually take away Air India into the fold right now. Nobody else has the potential nobody else has the capacity at this point of time to absorb such a big airline, which is all over the place.
We're running out of time, so Mohit, I'll give you the last question. Ajay, of the view that maybe Tatas are the only ones who can absorb an Air India, but what's it going to do with the Vistara? What is it going to do with an AirAsia? Will it consolidate? 3 airlines obviously makes no sense, but with Air India, you get fantastic routes and all of that, but at what cost? It's all going to come down to the cost. So once again, I'm going to ask you a question. When we move into transaction 2, you think the government will just start doing due diligence on most parties that have submitted a bid? Because remember, the part of the due diligence is also to figure out who to enter into step 3 with, only reputable firms.
Exactly. I hope the government does its due diligence, but my sense is their due diligence will be more on the basis of the paperwork that would have been, and the declarations that would have been made at this point of time. So reputable firms, you have obviously nothing can beat the Tatas in that department. But I think, and the new kid on the block, we've not heard much about them before. Like you said, obviously they were interested in AirAsia India. There were also, I think, some media reported in January 2020 that they wanted to enter also in a tie-up with Hinduja. So I know they are interested in aviation, but beyond that, if they have any expertise in aviation, nobody knows. And that's why I'm pinning my hope on the Tata Group at this point of time. Coming to the consolidation part, I think a consolidation has to happen in this case. There is no in-house Tata Administrative Services for aviation per se. So the Tata talent in aviation is in Vistara and in AirAsia India. So a common discussion that's been going around the aviation circles is maybe they take the full service part, which is Air India, and merge it with Vistara, subject to obviously SQ approving of the transaction as well. SQ is Singapore Airlines. And on the other hand, take the Air India Express brand and merge it into into AirAsia India, which they're very
Correct.
keen at this point of time. So, and
Absolutely.
AI stats can remain as it is.
I think it's still early days.
Yes.
I think we're still early days from that. In fact, the deadline to submit the expression for interest is still not lapsed. You are already seeing reports that are coming in that maybe even SpiceJet has bid. Let's see if this time round things change. Remember, those interested in Jet Airways, you've got the case under the NCLT. They put out a tweet saying we'll be back in the skies early next year. So let's see how all of this pans out. But Ajay and Mohit, I'm completely out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the India Development Debate.